No way, Jose.
The following footage proves beyond any doubt that the tanks intentionally set the house on fire. It proves that the Branch Davidians were murdered. You can see that this tank has a gas jet on the front that shoots fire. You can also see the fire quite plainly. The tank goes into the house twice, and each time as it backs out, the fire at the gas jets is plainly visible.
We must all do more to recognize and look for the early warning signals that deeply troubled young people send.
Good morning, good morning. This is the No Way Jose podcast. You're watching the Morning Dump. Glad to have all of you here with me. I see my stream has already been rated before it even started. One of these days, I will return the favor when I learn how to fucking do it. So, thanks for that, Nephilim Murder Crew. That is sweet of you. I see everyone saying hi in there. Yo. I see a tower in the works. You're about halfway through. You'll keep at it. You'll get there. Good job. Keep it up. All right, guys. We have a lot, man. By the way, if you guys are surprised that I'm coming in on a Monday, that is because I literally just happen to not have work all week. So I am. This is a rare one where I'll be doing 5 days a week of the Morning Dump, likely. Maybe one or two here and there. I think my in-law wanted me to help him out with something, so maybe I might have to drop it one of these days. Yeah, we're likely probably doing 5 this week, plus obviously Already Dead and the normal No Way Jose. We have this week my episode with William Ramsey on Aleister Crowley will be dropping on Friday. Although if you wanna get it early, it's already up on Patreon. So just throwing that out there. Yeah, that was a good one, a good little primer on Aleister Crowley. So I'll drop. So I mean, all things said and done, I'll probably be. Obviously, then I'm going to do another one for the following week behind the paywall. So I'll be doing probably like 7 podcasts this week. So that's cool. So we'll see. This should be interesting. But I appreciate everyone coming along for the ride. I see Will in here saying good morning. What up? What is up? But we have a lot to get into today. A lot happened over the weekend. Like a lot. Let's start off with new Diddy news. Let's see what's going on in the Diddyverse. Now we have Jay-Z accused of raping a girl who was 13 with Sean Combs more than 2 decades ago. All right, we got an article here. Let's bring it up. Let's go through it. Let's see what they have to say. This is the New York Post. God damn it, all these stupid fucking ads. How do I get it? God, what the fuck? There we go. All right, cool. It went away. I didn't want to click on that. That looked like it was going to give my computer a virus. Hey, also, let me know. Let me know if I'm sounding good and all that. It looked good on my side, but when I'm only going solo by myself, usually, like when you have a guest, you're kind of like, hey, you sound like shit or whatever. So you're kind of able to work with each other that way. There's always the off chance I could not even be connected to my mic one of these days. Go like 20 minutes if no one says otherwise. So always make sure to give me a little check-in. Let me know I'm sounding good. But all right, let's pop it back in at New York Post. God damn it, come on. It's being gay. All right, let's see if we can get through this. All right. Let's see. Let's scroll through this. Jay-Z accused of... God, I already read the title, so you know what this is about. Hip-hop legend Jay-Z has been accused of allegedly raping a 13-year-old girl with Sean Diddy Combs at a VMA's after-party in New York 2 decades ago, a bombshell lawsuit claims. The alleged victim, only identified as Jane Doe, leveled the disturbing allegation in a newly refiled civil lawsuit filed in the Southern District of New York on Sunday. The complaint was originally filed in October against Combs, but has since been amended to include Jay-Z, whose real name is Sean Carter. Carter, though, lashed out at the allegations late Sunday, claiming in a statement that the alleged victim's lawyer refiled the complaint only after allegedly trying to blackmail him. In the court papers, the alleged teen victim claimed she was attacked by Combs and Carter at the drug-fueled house party in September 2000 after the VMA show at Radio City Music Hall as an unnamed female celebrity watched. The girl claimed the alleged attack unfolded after she had one drink that left her feeling woozy and lightheaded, according to the filing. Looking for a place to rest, plaintiff entered what she believed to be an empty bedroom so she could lie down for a moment, the original filing charge. Soon after, Combs entered the room along with defendant Carter and a female celebrity. Plaintiff immediately recognized all three celebrities. I do want to point out the woozy and lightheaded real quick, because that is the rumor that went around, is that people were getting drugged, that stuff was being put in the water, stuff along those lines. So this does seem to comport to things that we have found out from other, previous, lawsuits and the such. So I know that does comport. Obviously, a lot of this is just kind of a he said, she said so far is what it seems like, but let's keep it going. Combs aggressively approached plaintiff with a crazed look in his eyes, grabbed her and said, "You are ready to party," the filing added. Combs then threw plaintiff toward a wall, causing plaintiff to fall. Plaintiff got up and stumbled, at which point Combs grabbed her again and threw her on the bed. At that point, Carter began removing plaintiff's clothes as she grew more and more disoriented. The woman alleged that she was then pinned down and raped by Combs and Carter as the unnamed female star watched. In a statement, Carter, who married pop star Beyonce Knowles in 2008, derided the allegations as he ripped the alleged victim's Texas attorney, Tony Busby, who has spearheaded a slew of civil lawsuits against Combs after he was slapped with federal sex trafficking charges in September. "My lawyer received a blackmail attempt, called a demand letter from a lawyer named Tony Busby. What he had calculated was the nature of these allegations and the public scrutiny would make me want to settle," Carter said in a lengthy statement. "No, sir, it had the opposite effect. It made me want to expose you for the fraud you are in a very public fashion. So no, I will not give you one red penny. These allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one. Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. Would you not agree?" he continued. "These alleged victims would deserve real justice if that were the case." Carter added, "My only heartbreak is for my family. My wife and I will have to sit our children down, one of whom is the age where our friends will surely see the press and ask questions about the nature of these claims and explain the cruelty and greed of people." Combs' lawyers slammed the latest suit as shameless publicity stunts. As his legal team has said before, Mr. Combs has full confidence in the facts and the integrity of the judicial process. In court, the truth will prevail that Mr. Combs never assaulted, assault of a certain kind, or trafficked anyone, man or woman, adult or minor. Combs, who's pled not guilty to the federal charges and is set to face trial in May, is being held without bail in federal custody in Brooklyn. All right, that's all that. Now, comments. I will say this just kind of sounds like a he said, she said. But, it does seem to comport to the things that were likely happening. So, I don't know. Does that mean Jay-Z did it? I don't know. Probably, if I had to guess, I would think he did. Ooh, cool. You need Brave browser, homie. I don't even know why. Okay. All right. Yeah, I see more people in the chat. I see people saying for articles that contain ads or subscriptions. Okay, so that's the browser will okay. All right, I'll have to keep that in mind. Maybe I will have to get Brave browser sometime, especially since we peruse articles in this show. That way we don't have to be bombarded with ads. So that's kind of, I do think it is kind of a he said, she said. It does comport to reality, though, so I guess it's somewhat worthwhile bringing up, although it does kind of seem mostly just kind of like a salacious news. I don't know. And that's not to say it's not true. It's just one of those things that people gravitated to it because of the fact that obviously Diddy and, maybe I think people might be giving a little more credence for that, but when they haven't really looked into it. All it seems so far at this point is he said, she said. So maybe we'll get more in the future, but yeah. All right. I'm assuming most of you guys realize that some shit popped off with Syria over the weekend, which I will say that one kind of slipped past me. I'm usually pretty good at keeping up with foreign policy type stuff, keeping my ear to the ground. But Syria, I'd heard people saying, "Hey, stuff's going on in Syria," but I don't know. I was too focused on, obviously my stuff that I typically interest, like the Dutroux fair and whatever. Whereas I was kind of keeping out of the side of my eye, keeping an eye on foreign policy, but I was more focused on like things like Gaza and Ukraine, like the two main things. So I wasn't focused on the little stuff. So this is where I guess they get you. They slip in a sly one. And yeah, some Syria shit popped off. Let's get into, let me see real quick. Sorry guys. God damn it. Here we go. Let's start off. Here's a summary of the fall of Damascus, a thread. Now, I did kind of skim this earlier, and I will say this is a little bit more of it did seem a little bit more of a regime type take, but whatever. It still gives us an idea of what is going on. All right, on 27 November, Syrian rebels launched an offensive on the city of Aleppo, led by the HTS with little resistance from the Syrian National Army. The rebels were able to capture the city by 30 November, including the strategic M5 motorway linking Aleppo and Damascus. And I'm not going to play all these videos, but you can see all these different videos kind of showing this to be the case. And then you see this one is, I think, while this is a silly little meme right here, I think it's worthwhile taking note. It's Assad and saying, come on, do something, poking Putin with a stick. Kind of, hey, are you going to help? And I think that's a worthwhile angle to think about, because think about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia and the fact that they're bogged down, so they're not really in a position to help out their ally here. Which it does seem like that's the Ukraine-Russia thing's going to dial down here later. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, I don't know, was that the plan all along, just to bog down Russia? I don't know. I mean, that seems a bit much, but I mean, maybe. All right, next on the map was the city of Hama, which was captured on the 5th of December, although Assad's commanders had bragged about the defenses of the city. But city was also quick to fall, as most of the Assad fighters fled after facing the lighting offensive from the rebels. More pictures, just kind of rebels obviously moving that way. All right, Homs was the last fortress in the pathway to Damascus. The same story folded in Homs as the previous two battles. Syrian army fled, leaving the rebels with tons of ammunition and weaponry, leaving the road to Damascus open. Last this morning, dated 8 December 2024, the capital city was Damascus fell. Dictator Assad, along with his family, tried to flee the country, but the fate of his aircraft is unknown at the moment. Rebel forces have taken control of all government infrastructure. All right, on the aircraft thing, that was the thing initially, right off the bat. A lot of people were surmising his aircraft may have been shot down, because he did leave via aircraft, and there was a good long period where it was just like, we didn't know. And to add to it, the Israel, which I didn't save it, I think it was like the Israel War Room or something account, which is like, I believe directly an Israel account. Like, I want to say it was like within like minutes, so it wasn't before, but it was after. And this is before we had much information, so it would be like, do you have information we don't? Had posted just kind of like a glib little, emoji of like a plane, which they had done a while ago. If you remember, I forget which individual of it was the prime minister, I forget which political dignitary it was over in Iran that had got taken down. They had posted like right after, like immediately after, like probably before reports were even rolling in, they did the same thing with a helicopter, I believe. So it almost seemed like kind of like a Babe Ruth kind of pointing out kind of at the stands type deal, kind of like a call out. So a lot of people were surmising that maybe that Assad had been killed, but it looks like the newest reporting is that he's safe in Russia. Now, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's been anything to completely prove that. I haven't really looked into it, but I'd say probably maybe can defer to that. So that's where we're at now. Assad did leave, is reportedly in Russia at this point in time. So that's where we're at. So, I mean, we might get more information going forward on, from his side of the story. I don't know. All right, let's continue. All right, opposition forces from Dara escorted Syria's Prime Minister to the Four Seasons Hotel in a symbolic act representing the transfer of power and the dismantling of Assad regime control. According to reports, Assad ordered the peaceful transfer of power. And then here's a video saying the entire Syrian army fled to Iraq. You can see like what looks like Humvees and stuff driving through. One just went through. Oh, yeah, there's another one. There's a tank. Yep. All right. And then it says Syrian rebels prepare to go to Latakia. The people in the region have already torn down the Assad statues and overthrew the government, but the region has not seen the militants move in. This is tense because it is an area with Russian military base and control. And it says, current map of Syria with no Assad control. What's next for Syria? Peace or fighting between factions and potentially neighbors with foreign powers taking chunks of country as buffer zone. This ripple effect will follow to other countries such as Iran as well. Now that chunks of country is buffer zones, put that in your head. We're going to come back to that. So here's the map. And this is what I was talking about. Also do read about the atrocities of dictator Assad on the people on Syria during his brutal reign. Now, I don't know to what extent Assad actually has, perpetrated atrocities. I wouldn't be surprised if he has done some things, as every world leader has. But the main things, so far as the chemical attacks, I mean, if you've been following me for any period of time and, you read a lot of the same stuff I do, I mean, you guys probably know that was bullshit. That was completely bullshit. I forget the name of the report, but I would highly implore you, if you don't believe this bullshit, just go dig into it. Just do the slightest bit of cursory research. I can't remember what the name of the fucking the report that came out. This is stuff I'd looked into forever ago. It became pretty clear after the fact that was completely bullshit and was just propaganda. Which, if you guys remember, during the Trump administration, that was a big thing, is the wanting to attack Syria. I can't remember if I want to say we did some sort of strikes on Syria after a supposed chemical attack, and all the people in my camp at the time were like, "Hey, maybe wait till we find out more." But everyone's like, "No, he's doing chemical attacks with people." And we're like, "Well, we don't even really know." And then lo and behold, it looked like it was complete bullshit, because these people are literal fucking demons, and they will do whatever they have to get their plans through. And that's not to say Assad's a good guy. That just means that they're all fucking awful, and they will do what they got to do to get their end plan in place. All right, let's pop into the chat real quick before we keep moving. All right, yeah, I think the Diddy tapes are a distraction. They burnt him to get his leverage tapes. Perhaps, yeah. I mean, I don't think we're going to really... It's kind of like the never-ending nothing ever happens type thing. I don't think anybody of substance will get burned, but I do think we're going to get closer to important information than we did in probably like the Epstein stuff. I do think a lot of people are going to get burned, but it's going to be this flashy, shiny, look at this celebrity over here, look at this celebrity over here. So the general public will get lost in the sauce on that stuff, I think, and you're like, oh wow, look at what Jennifer Lopez did, or this or that. But the real, the like fingerprints of control, of intelligence, of whatever you're looking for, I do think we're going to be able to see more of that. Now, will there be anything that like blatantly comes out? I don't know. We'll see. But I do think, like, so far as like getting into the collective consciousness, yeah, I do think they're going to do probably a pretty good job of shining flashy things in the people's faces to get them to be like, oh wow, this celebrity did this, wow. As opposed to like, well, why are these celebrities doing this? Who is pulling these strings? But I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see. But either way, I'm gonna keep an eye on it. So, yeah. All right. Yeah. America's been doing chemicals on its own citizens since ? Yeah, I remember. I believe it was in Wendy Painting's ship book. She pointed out like quite a few different occasions where like the CIA like poisoned different waters and so just running tests on the American people, because like I guess fuck us, I guess. Yeah, we got Dr. Corbo saying celebrity scandals are just like movies or celebrity dating, circus clowns distracting us from the elephant killing everyone. Yep. All right, let's what else we got? Which one do I want to do next? All right, let's do this one next. Here we go. So you get an idea of what's going on. Former commander of Al-Qaeda, Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani, is the new leader of Syria. The CIA/Mossad takeover of Syria is complete. Al-Qaeda, you remember those guys? We kind of had like a big beef with them a while back, but I guess we're cool with it now, I guess. So we'll see. As long as he says rah-rah diversity or something while he's murdering Christians, I guess we'll just call it cool. But yeah. And then you got this, my role in the CIA was to go out and convince Al-Qaeda operatives to instead work with us. This is a tweet from Evan McMullen. This is Dissident Media that shared this. Had Amy Lepore on the show a while back. Go check them out. But yeah, let's see what Whitney Webb has to say about this. She had a good tweet. She said, Recent events in Syria very likely would not have happened if the U.S. had not prevented the Syrian military from attacking the Syrian rebels several years ago. She makes a really good point in this thread. I do want to just kind of highlight it before I guess we even get into it. If you recall, during the Trump administration and even after that, I believe, we've kind of been doing this back and forth. Essentially, there's been this civil war going on in Syria for a long-ass time, and really all we've accomplished is stoking the fires by jumping back and forth between sides. So at some point, we would be fighting against the rebels because they're terrorists, and then the next junction we would be, now we're fighting against Assad because he's gassing his people, while we pretend to forget that the civil war that's going on, the other side is the fucking terrorists that we were having problems with before. So we essentially play this game where we kind of did back and forth, but also would sort of protect the rebels, sort of not. So essentially we created a situation to where it was bound to, essentially get worse because he wasn't allowed to really take care of his problem. All right. Okay. For instance, the first Trump administration threatened multiple times to militarily attack the Syrian government if they attacked the rebel, quote unquote, stronghold of Idlib, even though Trump's special envoy on ISIS had called Idlib the largest al-Qaeda safe haven since 9/11. The Obama and Biden administrations, more so Obama, whose State Department essentially instigated the war at Israel's behest, are absolutely to blame as well. But al-Qaeda is ultimately a U.S. creation, and the current chaos in Syria is a direct consequence of horrific U.S. foreign policy decisions, many of which are neoconservative in nature, meaning they conflate Israeli foreign policy goals with American foreign policy goals. While it remains to be seen what the incoming administration will do beginning late next month, cabinet picks and rhetoric suggest there will be a covert or overt, leaning towards the latter, embrace of Israel's government's pursuit of the Greater Israel Project. The fall of Assad has been called for by American neoconservatives who embraced this ambition since the late 1990s. As noted in the clean break documents Richard Pearl wrote for Netanyahu. Also, Hillary Clinton's leaked emails revealed that the U.S. brokered fomenting of the rebel chaos in 2011 was done for Israel. The mass killing in the Middle East won't stop until the conflation of Israeli foreign policy goals with U.S. foreign policy goals ends, and that seems unlikely over the next 4 years, unfortunately. I was kind of hoping maybe I could see a picture of the Greater Israel in the replies somewhere for you guys. I'm sure we'll see it elsewhere so you guys get an idea of what I'm talking about. All right, let's go over to this old banger, this Wesley Clark clip, so I can remind you guys. Let me check in the chat. Everyone's saying, what's up, man? There are no terrorist organizations, just outsourced government departments. This is coming for Corbeau. Yes, you are correct. Christ, she's going to make the argument Israel and the U.S. don't have the exact same goals. Well, I mean, she doesn't. I think she was more meaning like the goals of the elites, but obviously, like she's saying that like in a different sense. Obviously, that doesn't meet my goals, and I'm a part of the U.S. So it depends on what you mean, I guess. And in a certain sense, I actually do think it is the same goals, but it's not in its interest. If you really were to think about. Because we're essentially being leached off of by Israel. They're a parasitic entity. Like, what do we get from them? Like, what do we get from them at all? So, the idea this in any way actually benefits the United States goal and like interests is ridiculous. Now, if you're looking at it from a perspective of like, oh, these guys are all blackmailed to the gill, or whatever reasons you have for why they're paid by Israel. It's like obviously now they have incentives, but so far as the actual entity of the United States, it really is not in their interests. So I mean they have the same goals for sure, but yeah. All right, all right. All right, it's been the goal of the Western Empire to control the entire Middle East since the late 1800s. Yeah, for sure. Although, really, I think all we're going to end up doing is creating Greater Israel and losing our power in the region to where I do think at a certain point we might essentially lose our world power status while conferring it essentially over to Israel, to where now they have control over that region. And I don't think they're going to return the favor like people think they will and allow us to be a parasitic entity off of them in return. So we'll see. I don't know. That would be just my guess of how this might play out. All right, let's pop back into the into the old Wesley Clark. And this is from my buddy Clint. It says Iraq, Syria, Libya, Lebanon, Somalia, Sudan, all check marks next to him. Next up, Iran. General Wesley Clark told us the game plan 20 years ago. If you still doubt it at this point, I don't know what else you need to see. With Syria down, they are definitely moving on Iran. Let's listen to this.
Right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
This is a historic day for the Middle East. The collapse of the Assad regime, the tyranny in Damascus, offers great opportunity, but also is fraught with significant dangers. This collapse is a direct result of our forceful action against Hezbollah and Iran, Assad's main supporters. It set off a chain reaction of all those who want to free themselves from this tyranny and its suppression. But it also means we have to take action against possible threats. One of them is the collapse of the Separation of Forces Agreement from 1974 between Israel and Syria. This agreement held for 50 years. Last night it collapsed. The Syrian army abandoned its positions. We gave the Israeli army the order to take over these positions to ensure that no hostile force embeds itself right next to the border of Israel. This is a temporary defensive position until a suitable arrangement is found. Equally, we send...
By the way, I just realized I had it muted, so I totally did like a what's the word I'm looking for? I did a bridge from one topic to the other, and you guys totally missed that. So my bad, guys. I'll try to be a little bit more. Anyways, I made the point about just kind of if you wondered why did General Wesley Clark get this information? We're doing all that. Why would America do this? All right, that's what we're getting into now. So sorry it was muted. I still boomer things up occasionally. I will get better with time, but let's keep moving.
A hand of peace to all those beyond our border in Syria, to the Druze, to the Kurds, to the Christians, and to the Muslims who want to live in peace with Israel. We're going to follow events very carefully. If we can establish neighborly relations and a peaceful relations with the new forces emerging in Syria, that's our desire. But if we do not, we'll do whatever it takes to defend the state of Israel and the border of Israel.
All right. So what does that mean? Old Greater Israel is what that sounds like. They're taking over a buffer zone. How there is no fucking Greater Israel thing in this? All right. Well, here's one. Here's a photo of something along the lines of Greater Israel. I don't think that's the exact correct one, but it's close enough. So you get the idea. You can look out on your own time what Greater Israel is. This is something that's been talked about for a while. Hell, there are even people, there are IDF soldiers with patches that I've seen of Greater Israel. I believe, I want to say Netanyahu made some statements about Greater Israel a while back. So yeah, it's still in their consciousness, and it seems like something they've been wanting to do for a while still. I mean, it is kind of wild that it seems like this really all just comes down to land, but that seems to be the case. Although, I mean, I guess if you really do think about a greater Israel plan, I mean, if Israel did manage to pull this off, and, you know, they would kind of be a pretty, they would be a forceful entity in the region, which they already are, but to an even greater degree. Because, I mean, there's a lot of natural resources and stuff like that in the area. Obviously, this, it creates more of a protection for Israel, more of a buffer zone between their enemies. But I guess we gotta move the world around just so Israel can get along. Although, why they can't get along with their neighbors, I don't know, right? Why is that? All right, I have one more video for you guys on this topic, and then we'll move on. There's a video going around, people complaining about Ben Shapiro. I haven't watched it. It's a little bit lengthy. It's like 3 minutes, but I did want to take the chance to go through it now. That way I can see if I find anything objectionable, because a lot of people are using this as to kind of point out, like, he said it was a good thing. Let me bring this up real quick. Sorry. All right, here you go. It says from the AF Post. It says Jewish pundit Ben Shapiro acknowledges Syria's Christian minority could be slaughtered now that Assad has been deposed, but says it's a good thing because Israel's enemies in the region have been weakened. And then there's a community note in here that says, in the video, Ben Shapiro clearly states the slaughtering of Christians in Syria would be a terrible thing, the exact opposite of what the author of this post is asserting. Although, I don't know, we're about to watch this video, but I would assume that he's not saying it. The good thing is, I guess, a little bit out of context. I'm assuming he's probably saying overall it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing that will be happening. But that, like, as a net thing is what he's saying. Although I don't agree with him, but I'm just kind of, I don't know, I guess give him a little bit of credence, or stand out for him a little bit in that sense that, like, because it almost makes it sound like sort of that he's saying that literally it's a good thing that the people are dying, but that's not what I doubt that's what he means. Far be it from me to defend Ben Shapiro. Fuck that guy. But all right, let's do it.
Okay, there were significant human rights predations against Christians on the ground, not only in the areas controlled by Sunni terrorists, but also in the areas that were controlled by Shia terrorists. Syria is about 10% Christian. Okay, so is it about to get worse? It definitely could, which would, of course, be a terrible thing. And then you have the question of what Bashar al-Assad was doing to the country, which is killing hundreds of thousands of people using everything up to and including chemical weapons. Well, he's gone now, and Israel has been striking a lot of the chemical weapons depots to prevent them from falling into the hands of the new rebel alliance over here. Okay, so, again, is any of this wonderful? It isn't. But the one thing that is an upside is that the Iranian crescent is dead. Okay, the Shia crescent that, again, stretched all the way from Iran all the way across to Lebanon, that is now dead. What does that mean? It means the Iranian regime is actually in quite real trouble here. All of their biggest proxies are gone. Hamas, gone. Hezbollah, gone. Assad, gone. That means the Shia influence game is beginning to wane. It's beginning to end. The Houthis are basically isolated down there in Yemen. The Shia regime in Iran still has impact in Iraq, but internally they are much, much, much weaker right now. So the border countries, what are they doing? Turkey.
All right, I don't know if I'll get a copyright strike, so I'll probably do this in doses. But yeah, he's I don't even know what the time period is that you're supposed to stop for those. But either way, yeah, I mean, he's kind of actually correct here in the sense that, like, that is totally, so far as how the landscape's looking now, he's right. This does make me kind of wonder: is Iran really the next play? Was the whole Russia-Ukraine thing just a smokescreen to essentially enable the path towards, greater Israel or Iran or whatever the big move is? I mean, these guys are playing pretty smart foreign policy in a certain sense. Now, will this blow up? This is totally going to be a bad thing, in my opinion, for Syria. So, bummer there. But it is what it is. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It sucks. It sucks. This is going to be a bad thing for the region. Great thing for Israel, but I couldn't give two shits about that. So this likely, I think, kind of works towards their plans. I got to give it to them in the sense that, like, all right, pretty smart fucking play. All right, let's keep moving.
Is doing incursions into northern Syria. They were probably behind much of what's going on right now. They're attempting to grab territory in northern Syria. They're creating their own buffer zone. They're attempting to encroach on Kurdish territory, again, in the northeast of the country. Meanwhile, Israel in the south, has the Golan Heights. And anybody, by the way, who thought that it was a good idea for Israel to give up the Golan Heights, yeah, you're an idiot. Okay, it's a good thing Israel has the Golan Heights. Otherwise, you'd have Sunni terrorists sitting up top over the Lake Tiberias and firing down into the valley in Israel. Okay, so Israel controls that area. They've been moving up into their own buffer zone over at Mount Hermon, which is in Syria. It's kind of the strategic height of the region. Okay, meanwhile, again, you have
I mean, so far, like I don't know, like obviously, I don't like his, I'm not a neocon like he basically is, but at the same time, it's I don't know, I don't think he really has said so far what they're making out like he's, I don't know. If anything, he's just kind of laying out the facts on the ground kind of deal. I mean, just kind of this is what this means, and I don't know. I'm almost kind of bored with this one. But yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, it kind of is what it is. All right, let's finish this.
the Syrian government, which has now abdicated. They are turning over control to this rebel alliance. Unclear exactly what's going to result, because again, you still have all of these players on the ground who are fighting one another. They may be united against Assad, but now Assad is gone. So Assad's family is out. The rebels, again, arrived in Damascus. Meanwhile, you have the Kurds who are still controlling a large swath of territory. What does it really mean? It means that Russia is weak. Iran is weak. These were paper tigers. And their attempts to invade Ukraine and invade Israel, respectively, those went really poorly.
I will kick back. The Russia being a paper tiger is a little fucking wild because, I mean, it seems like, it almost feels like, once again, I don't know if this is the case. This might be a little bit too conspiratorial or conjecture. That Israel or that Russia was almost intentionally taken out of the thing, especially because I've heard rumors. I don't know. I probably should save something to confirm. I don't know the legitimacy of it, but I've heard rumors that there has been talks behind doors that almost kind of this happening was essentially like Russia not stepping in here was kind of, there was some sort of like handshake deal of like Russia not stepping in led to us, pulling back on Ukraine. So honestly, kind of like Russia doesn't have to deal with Ukraine anymore. Like that's done. Like they don't have to deal with that boondoggle on their border. That will be done essentially once Trump comes in or whenever. But this happens instead. So that seems to be, point being is it's like calling Russia a paper tiger, a little ridiculous considering is the fact that they had to be taken out of the equation by essentially, creating a negative situation that they needed to get out of. Not that they were ever going to lose against Ukraine, but they were going to get bogged down. I mean, just in the same sense that we're bogged down in the Middle East or whatever. They're going to spend tons and tons of money, lose lots and lots of lives, and really do very little to any good at all for their interests, essentially just protecting their interests, and that's it. Or they can end it and let Syria go bye-bye when it would look like it probably was going to anyways. I don't know what Russia could have really done much about it, given that they were already bogged down. But so essentially they kind of forced them in the situation. So I don't know if it would be fair to characterize them as a paper tiger. Iran, I don't know, but we'll see.
Poorly for them. What you are watching is the complete collapse of the Russian-Iranian alliance in Syria, and it is indicative of the interior weakness of these countries, which is something to remember going forward. President Biden said this is the first time ever either Russia nor Iran or Hezbollah could defend a foreign regime in Syria. This is the direct result of the blows Ukraine and Israel delivered. This is what he said in a statement. No thanks to Joe Biden, by the way, who's continuing to slow walk weapons to both Ukraine and also to Israel. So if it had been up to Joe Biden, presumably those allies never would have been properly armed. But it is a very good thing and indicative, again, of the weakness of Russia and Iran, what has happened in Syria. Now, net, I think it'll probably be a good thing, but there are no great things in the Middle East. It just doesn't exist. A lot of bad people in a lot of areas in the Middle East.
All right. I mean, I disagree with him, but I do think a lot of people have been shitting on him, be like, oh, look, he's fine with the Christians dying. And like, yeah, in a certain sense, but I don't know. He kind of laid out there. I mean, he just kind of made the case that like overall, I disagree with him. But obviously, if your perspective is Israel first, then yeah, this totally makes sense. If you put such a, put prominence on Israel doing well in the region, yeah, it makes sense that you would say on a net, this is good. especially if you don't give a fuck about the Arabs, which, let's be real, I don't think he does. So, but yeah, all right, let's pop back into some of your chats, and then we have one more topic, and then we'll continue our reading of the Dutroux affair. All right, let me see, what do we got? All right, there's no magic number, but most YouTubers only will play 30 seconds to a minute. Okay, that's what I was going for, a minute or less, referring to how much time I can play with as I get copyright. Randomly ask your friends if Iranians are Arabs and tally it up. It's astounding. I don't know what you're getting at here, but I will say that so far as that, I've gone on some weird dives, especially like Robert Sepper's type of content. And I guess apparently like the Iranians don't have a lot of the same, aren't really, I mean, I'm talking a little bit on my ass here, aren't really Arabs, or at least they have they have quite a bit of genetic variance from Arabs. So apparently, like, I guess supposedly even Hitler or some shit thought they were Aryans and didn't fuck with them. So they thought they were, originated from a different root, group or whatever. And I guess there is some truth to that. That area tends to be a little bit more, a little less Arab looking. I guess is just the easiest way to put it. I don't have any $3 words for that. It says you can also just talk over it. Yeah, there you go. I guess I could do that as well. Yeah, man. Every time I hear someone talk about the Middle East, I care less and less. Yeah. Paper tigers are a literal staple of Chinese black magic, like literal tigers made of paper. It says, yeah, Russia is fighting a 7-front war all by themselves. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, you can't really call them a paper tiger when it's like you literally had to bog them the fuck down so you could get what you wanted. It's not quite. You're like, I mean, I don't know. If you got into a bar fight and you sent 7 of your dudes over at one guy and you're like, look at that fucking pussy. You're like, he won't even fight me. And you're like, yeah, because he's fighting fucking 7 dudes, you retard. But yeah, Emily says they're going to lose any of the women's subscribers. DW has when Brett leaves, and his take, some Christians will die, but Israel's enemies are weakened, so it's a W. Will leave only evangelical Zionists. Yeah. Yeah, I will say I don't think that video was as bad as people were making it out to be. I mean, I'm not surprised. I guess I was expecting something a little bit more like over the top of like how great this is, and then not really caring at all about the death, because he definitely made a point to be like, this will probably be bad for some things in the region, but he said overall it's likely to be. I disagree with his take, but I don't think it was as bad as everyone was making it out to be. But yeah, I don't know anything about that like Brett thing. I've seen little bits here and there. I don't know the truth of it. I don't really care. I couldn't care less about her. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure she's a nice lady. Not my cup of tea. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, maybe the broads will leave. I mean, I hope everyone leaves Daily Wire. Fuck that place. All right. Yeah, Israel and Ukraine have NATO fighting with and for them. Yes, exactly. Like, I mean, it is ironic. Mark my words, 2 years into Trump's term, Russia and the U.S. will become buddies to align against China. Maybe. I don't know. Get Sepper on the show. I would love to. I've reached out to him multiple times. I mean, this is what you guys are for. Say, hey, Robert Sepper, go on whatever. I mean, once they see like a groundswell of people wanting something to happen, that's when you get some of these larger creators. I mean, I haven't been able to get his attention. I mean, I haven't tried in a long time. This is probably, I don't know, this is probably when my account was more around like 5,000. So, I mean, maybe I have a little bit more reach. Maybe I could get him now. I don't know. I mean, it would be fun to have a show. I do find his content interesting. I watch it fairly regularly. Yeah, Iranians are Persians is what he's saying. Yeah, Iran literally means land of the Aryans, and they're saying they're closer to white. Yeah, that's my understanding. All right, let's yeah, and then Emily says it's Benjamin being Benjamin, not anything worth being worked up about. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. I really don't want to make it sound like I'm like, oh, I'm endorsing this take by Ben Shapiro, but I'm just saying it's like everyone got worked up about it, and you're like, as if, and don't get me wrong, he's said some pretty fucking crazy shit in the past that I've been like, fuck this guy, and really, want to rake him over the coals, but this one just was like, not that, in my opinion. It was like a 3.5 minute, like, fairly, I guess, nuanced from his perspective take of all the pros and cons overall, and, he was kind of like, in a lot of ways, I agreed with some of his takes, but obviously he's coming from a different perspective. So it's like, it is what it is. I don't agree. I mean, I think it's I think it's overall worse, for it than. But I also don't put strong value on Israel's well-being. So he does. So it makes sense. This is where he'd come from. But yeah. All right, let's check back in on our fucking killer over in New York City, the assassin there. Let's pop in. Let's just a recap to remind you, and I just thought it was kind of a little bit of a funny video. Let's play this. This kind of little bit of edit I saw from this guy named Ken Klippenstein. So an independent journalist. I found this. He kind of clipped up Bill Burr saying some funny stuff on it, and then also he threw in some other stuff. So you may not get as much from this if you're listening to it audio, but you'll at least hear the Bill Burr part. But there is it does kind of jog our memory. It's a quick little kind of goes through some of the stuff we talked about before with the stocks and stuff. But all right, let's play it.
Oh, what's going on in New York? We were just talking about it. That CEO got fucking whacked.
Oh my God, dude.
You know what's funny? I was sitting there reading an article, guy. They go, "Oh my God, he's such a great guy. He had a wife and kids, and he's such a great guy." And then you find out he and the other guys he's working for are getting sued for $121 million for dumping a stock and not letting the other people know.
In the lawsuit, he and multiple other United Health executives are accused of offloading something like 15 million shares of stock.
It's like, there's your motive. Nancy Pelosi just made $9 million on some shit.
Nancy Pelosi's stock trades saw a 65% return last year. This comes as Congress has stalled talks on banning lawmakers from trading stocks.
They're gangsters, dude. Fucking gangsters. And then one of them gets whacked or something, they're like, "Oh my God, he was such a good guy." It's a dirty game, Paul. Healthcare, dirty game.
All right, cool. So that was a little bit of a recap on the situation. Oh yeah, which one of the assassins? Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit here in a second. But yeah, I thought that was a good little recap of kind of where we're at, sorta. Yeah, I mean, we still have the lefties. Just a little bit of an update. The lefties out there are still creaming their pants over this guy because he's a cutie patootie, I guess. And they're all about dealing with the capitalists. But I am still of the opinion that let's be real. I don't think this is your commie Batman. I'm sorry. I think this is more likely something else going on here that we don't know. Some sort of shadow wars. And yes, okay, I will say if I did come to find out this was some class war stuff and this guy was just really a complete piece of shit or did something or I don't know, whatever. I found out somehow that okay, to some extent this is sort of justified. Maybe there's some true detective shit going on and fucking old Rusty Cole is fucking chasing him down because he did some awful stuff. I don't fucking know. Then at that point I'd be like, okay, cool, I don't give a shit. But let's be real. I think this is likely either, I think this is just, I get the feeling that there are people that, how do I put this? Essentially maybe Intel fingerprints or something. It just feels like it's being allowed to happen. I don't know if this guy was going to, was going to testify against somebody or something, but it just doesn't feel like this is one of the good guys. If anything, I would say maybe this feels like, maybe it's being made to look that way. It just feels, there's too much, it just seems too easy. This guy got off, too many red herrings were thrown out there. Even with, just mentioning just a second ago, which one of the assassins, that's kind of what I'm getting at. That leans into it. Real quick, I don't have a fucking, I didn't manage to find I'm having a brain fart right now. I wasn't able to find a good one to screen share, but I do have, I took some screenshots from something a while ago. I wish I could remember which fucking, thing it came from. I should have saved it in my notes or something, but this is from some fucking article. So there's a little bit of information here. I guess I'll just give you a summation. The deny, defend, and depose thing, apparently, because we talked about this before, that supposedly he left on the casing of the bullets. There was written on there, deny, defend, and depose. Apparently the defend was not correct. It was delay. So deny, delay, and depose, as if that makes a difference. I will say this is kind of what I'm leading into, where it's this feels like almost like it's for show. This is one of those other things. For one, I haven't seen any photos that actually confirm this. So it's hey, fucking, you just trust me, bro. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe that is the case. But either way, this kind of seems like, maybe it's being made to look like something else. Investigators believe the shooter may have traveled to New York City from Atlanta last month by bus. Three senior law enforcement officials familiar with the case told NBC News. But yeah, I still haven't seen any photos of it, so I don't know. I do kind of want to see it. Supposedly, they have identified a person. which I do have a screenshot for you guys for that. We have Mario Nafal, suspect in United Health CEO killing identified. Authorities have identified the man suspected of killing United Health CEO Brian Thompson. New York City Mayor Eric Adams confirmed. With an added bizarre twist, the suspect's abandoned backpack in Central Park was reportedly filled with Monopoly money, which adds more, which, I mean, cool, I guess kind of cool, but it almost feels like these are purposely being laid out so that all the people out here just kind of gobble it up and go, oh my God, that's so fucking cool. Or it's like, I don't know. I mean, sure, maybe we got the fucking Riddler out there. I don't know, but I just really doubt it. Anyways, Mayor Adams, the net is tightening. We're going to reveal who he is and bring him to justice, but withheld the suspect's name to avoid tipping him off. Once again, I'll believe it when I'll see it. So, I mean, this one does make a little bit more sense. They would keep this one close to the vest if they had his identity, because, yeah, you wouldn't want to tip him off. But still, once again, I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, like, it feels fetty to me still. All right. Now, here is, and this is from Pop Crave, new photos of the UHC CEO assassin and his backpack, which had Monopoly money. And now the FBI is offering a $50,000 reward, and it's believed he went on foot on Columbus Avenue and West 86th Street and got a taxi taking him north to George Washington Bridge bus station, where he supposedly left New York City. So here's a photo of him, once again, and then his backpack. So there we go. What else do we got? And then here's more on the Monopoly money thing. So that's what we got now. Just more Monopoly money type stuff. More little tidbits of information. Nothing too crazy. So I mean, we're still waiting for more, but that's the update for now. Just Monopoly money. One of the words was wrong. Got some more photos. I mean, that's all there is. But just keeping you guys updated on it. All right, let's check in with you guys real quick. Yeah. All right. All right. People are so into this. I'm thinking it's a perfect cover. Yeah, I know. It just feels contrived. Like, let's say this was some fucking commie Batman. Like, I mean, I guess Batman might be putting on. Let's say it is an actual guy doing class warfare or whatever you want to call it. I just feel like he wouldn't be. He wouldn't. God, how am I having such a brain fart? I don't feel like he would do this. I mean, I feel like, why would you go through all this trouble? I mean, I guess if you're trying to go like be super cool Batman Riddler route, sure, whatever. But I feel like your average person would just be trying to get away with it. So as opposed to doing all this. But I don't know, a lot of people are saying they think it's some sort of professional that is just trying to make it look like something that it's not. Yeah, there was some Pelosi insider trading stuff going on with old CEO boy. I don't know about that, but I mean, I wouldn't surprise me at all. And yeah, someone says the backpack, literal Monopoly money. Yep. Still won't believe it till I see photos of shells. 100%. Do you think Zog will ally with Russia to fight against communism? I don't know. I don't know why they. What do you mean fight against communism? Against Russia or against China? Maybe. I have no idea. So yeah, how do we even know that even his backpack, it's some comic creation people keep people in line? Yeah, for sure. I mean, this feels contrived to me. Yeah, everything is speculation after that city bike lie. Because yeah, that's kind of my point. Like off the jump, we had the city bike thing, and then after that, it became the photos, which seemed like bullshit. I don't know. It seems. I mean, as you'd think, as many photos and how able to track them, they would have this guy. They would have so much more out there already. But I could be entirely wrong. I mean, they could fucking lock this guy up in the next day or two. But we will find out. All right, guys, we're going to go into our Dutroux affair section. But I will warn you guys, I probably should start doing disclaimers for these. So this is a disclaimer now. It may have some uncomfortable content in it. There was some pretty dark shit in the last one. But we are reading through, this is I think part 6 or something, of the Dutroux affair. A giant, like a really big article that I found. So that way we can all get churched up on it together. But it's dark stuff. But Dutroux affair, which is like the essentially like I guess you could say an Epstein case of some sort going on in Belgium that involved like the royal family and lots of other stuff going on. So really dark shit, and that's what we're getting into now. All right, let me present this. Give me a second. There we go. Got it up. All right, girls X1 had witnessed being murdered. I'm supposed to say unalived. My bad. I keep forgetting to change the words like I'm supposed to. All right. X1 claimed to have witnessed the torture and unaliving of dozens of kids, mainly in the period 1976 to 1988. She gave the first names of about 35 of these children and claimed to have forgotten the names of about another 30 or so. Inspectors picked out some of the more interesting names and descriptions given by X1 in an effort to establish her credibility. As a result, the investigations into 4 deceased girls were reopened. Veronique Dutroux, Christine Van Hees, Karine Delart, and Catriane de Cooper. Even though X1's information about these girls turned out to be amazingly accurate, or in other cases led to a whole list of interesting coincidences, every single investigation was ultimately shut down. The life and death of these girls has been described in great detail in the 1999 book, The X Dossiers, and the 2004 Zembla documentary. Only occasionally a footnote will be used. As far as possible, every claim has been checked via the PVs. Veronique Dutroux from Gent. After correctly pointing out a picture of Veronique Dutroux, X1 accurately stated that this girl had died in or around 1983. According to X1, Veronique had been tortured to unaliving with a knife at an abuse party where Michel Nihoul, Annie Bouty, her pimp Tony Emile Delart, who was a father of another unalived girl in the network, a member of the Burt family, and several others had been present. Veronique's father, Jacques, turned out to be an administrator of the cinema company Decatron NV, which was owned by the Burt family and went on to become the longtime chairman and patron of the International Film Festival of Flanders, located in Gent. Patrick de Bates and his team looked up the death certificate of Veronique, and it turned out that she'd officially been unalived from a chronic disease, apparently cancer. In any case, because of the nature of the disease, the inspectors couldn't figure out why a neuropathist and a neurosurgeon had signed her death certificate. They went back to X1 and asked if she knew any of these men. According to X1, these 2 doctors, one of them internationally esteemed at this moment, had been present at abuse parties organized by the Hannett family of UCO Textiles, also headquartered in Gent. She had been raped by one of them. The other was more interested in 7 to 8-year-old girls. The investigation into the death of Veronique was shut down in early 1997. One of the main arguments was that Debates and his team should have waited with questioning X1 about the 2 doctors after she had been able to identify them from pictures. The investigators were never given permission to exhume the body of Veronique. Interestingly, around the time the investigation of Veronique's death or unaliving was closed, the existence of the X dossiers was mentioned in the press for the first time. Inspectors who had been put on the Dutroux case found out that Tony, X1's former pimp, phoned up Jacques Dutroux 3 times right after these publications. Later research by the authors of the 1990 book, The X Dossiers, indicated that both men were good friends. The parents of Veronique, who were quite prominent at the time, have never tried to defend themselves against the accusations made by X1, which were reported in the press. According to X1, the 2 Gent doctors were not part of her pimp's immediate circle, and they were not involved in the child hunts. All right, we're on to the second person now. I will let you guys know I'm probably going to cut this one a little bit early. We'll probably do half, do 2 of the girls that were unalived, and then tomorrow do the other 2, because I got to be really bad. All right, I know it's super unprofessional, but whatever. All right, X1 has spoken about a girl named Chloe since her first interview on September 20th, 1996. According to X1, Chloe had been 3 years older than herself and was unalived somewhere between June and December 1983. According to X1, at one point in 1983, she had been picked up from school by Tony and taken to the house in the region of Gent. She found her friend Chloe there, lying in a bed. Chloe was trying to deliver a baby, but in the process was continually raped and tortured. As a result, she had lost a lot of blood and ultimately died. The baby was taken away. One of the few things X1 was able to remember about the life of Chloe was the street where her school was located. Armed with this information, the investigators were able to present X1 with 1981 to 1982 class photos in which she recognized Karine Delart as being her Chloe. X1 also pointed to a certain V, about which she stated they unalived her too. The investigators checked X1's information, and it turned out that Corinne Delart had disappeared on August 30th, 1982, only to be found very badly decomposed in an abandoned cesspit on September 24th, 1985. She indeed was 3 years older than X1. The other girl X1 identified by name also had unalived in 1983. During the investigation into the unaliving of Karen Delart, X1 recalled that her Corinne Chloe Delart had worn an ankle bracelet, a chainlet. And indeed, the 1985 autopsy report on Corinne Delart mentioned that this girl had worn an anklet chainlet. That same report also mentioned that the remains of a laminaria tent were found at the height of Corinne's pelvis. The only purpose of laminaria tents is to slowly open up the cervix to make it easier and more comfortable to give childbirth, again supporting X1's testimony that Corinne was trying to deliver a baby in her final hours. Additionally, soon after her daughter's disappearance, Corinne's mother had found out that her daughter was in the possession of maternity clothing. In early 1997, the BOB in Gent, headed by prosecutor of the King Jan Sonnen, took over the investigation of the X1 Delart link. They ceased all cooperation with Neufchâteau and began a campaign of manipulation and intimidation. They mean intimidation. They spelled it wrong. Which ultimately led to the following conclusion by Sonnen. The testimonies of Regina Louf, alias X1, have been closed definitely. As an overall conclusion, it can be stated that all her testimonies have been totally unbelievable and the inaudible, it says, of pure fantasy. Her testimonies pertaining to the death of Corinne Delart are completely wrong. During the investigation, it clearly turned out the girl Chloe, if this person even existed, absolutely does not identify herself with Corinne Delart. As usual, there's a total lack of respect for the victim, and numerous statements had to be ignored and taken out of context before this conclusion could be reached. Besides some of the things that have been already mentioned, one example is the fact that the BOB in Gent claimed that X1's description of the villa in which the murder allegedly took place was inaccurate. The team of debates concluded otherwise. The authors of the book The X Dossiers concluded otherwise, and finally a court of law also concluded otherwise. Unfortunately, the case was already dead and buried by that time. Another important detail about the house pointed out by X1 that was never investigated by the Gent BOB was that it used to be a brothel, the international club where many upper-class people came. Coincidentally, the parents of X4 lived next door. A person named Gustave Durdegen rented the villa since 1991 from the same people who owned the house in the early 1980s. During this time in the early 1980s, Durdegen was the owner of the Co, a nightclub where X1 claimed to have been abused by customers of her pimp, Tony, together with Chloe/Corinne. Investigators found that the Co was mentioned in Tony's diary. They also found out that when this nightclub went bankrupt in 1984, one of its largest creditors was Le Cinéma Publicitaire, a video store owned by Tony. The largest creditor was the firm All Meat, in which not only Durdegen was a partner, but also the Dutch porn king Gerard Koch. Koch has been in partnership with Fat Charles Geertz since 1981 to 1982. Geertz is one of the largest porn kings in the world, and even more so than Koch. It's ultimately tied to the Dutch and international media. Interestingly, Geertz has been accused on several occasions of trade in PDF movies. Other examples of evidence ignored by the Gent BOB are the testimonies of Christelle M. and Fanny V. Fanny was Corinne's best friend at school. She remembered how Corinne would often speak to her about her abuse by her father and her friends, and how Corinne had often thought about running away from home. Christelle M. was a classmate of X1 who was among those who confirmed X1's relationship with Tony, a person who often waited for her after school. X1 apparently told Christelle at some point that she was pregnant from this man. Also, according to Christelle, X1 often went out with a girl named Christine, Corinne, Caroline, or Claudine. In 1998, in the aftermath of the X1 Delart affair, some old classmates of X1 apparently confirmed that Corinne had indeed been known as Chloe by some. This would be a direct contradiction of the claims made by the BOB in Gent. One of the main reasons cited by prosecutor Jean Sonnen for his decision to close the case of X1 Delart was that she refused to cooperate when confronted with Corinne's father, Emile. Unfortunately, Sonnen and the press generally forgot to mention the circumstances of this confrontation. First of all, X1 had been confronted with Tony the day before, and even though he confirmed vast portions of the story, she had been completely drained by yet another intimidating confrontation in which all kinds of manipulation took place. Secondly, like Fanny V., X1 had already testified from day one that Kareen's father had been the one responsible for bringing her into the sadist abuse network. It apparently also didn't bother the Gent investigators that Emil had already been investigated for accusations of incest in 1977, next to suspicions against him that he had an affair with an underage girl in the Netherlands in 1965. Because of accusations of incest from his wife, and because he waited a week before reporting his daughter missing, Emil became a suspect in the disappearance of his own daughter. During the investigation, the police found out that Emil shot sensual photos of his daughter, that witnesses at Kareen's scouting club thought that father and daughter were acting more like a couple in love, and that Kareen had become extremely afraid of the woods all of a sudden, and that she was often heard screaming in the weeks before her disappearance. It all didn't matter. Emil would be released, acquitted, and later supported by most newspapers after the X1 Delart case had broken out. All right, tomorrow we'll go into the other two girls and kind of in the girls that she claimed to have known were unalived or whatever. Yeah, let's check in with the chat before we get out of here. Isn't the Process Church involved in this? I don't know. Maybe we'll get into that later. It wouldn't surprise me. Are you going to make Clint admit that Top and Raven were right? You know what? I've been watching a lot of those UFO videos. I will tell you, you guys know my background. I was an aircraft mechanic for well over a decade. And probably well over half of those are like helicopters or planes. And people just aren't used to how those lights work. And they do look a little weird in the dark sometimes. But you can immediately see the direction lights, the strobe lights, tail lights, all that stuff. And you're like, that's a fucking plane or that's a helicopter. Although some of them are weird. I'll give you that. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. I got to pee so damn bad, but I appreciate you guys showing up. We'll be doing this probably every damn day this week. If you do like what I'm doing, you can support that over at patreon.com. Just No Way Jose 2020. The lowest level is $2. That gives you the early access to the episodes, just like the episode that's coming out Friday that I have with William Ramsey, where we're covering Aleister Crowley. Also can allow you to be a talking head on my weekly live call-in show with Austin Picard. We're doing that tomorrow. But in the video call portion, you can be, a talking head alongside both of us. Also, the highest level is my sponsors. I read them off every episode. I have my co-host on Tower Gang, at Tower Gang Toad, at AbrogateDees, at ZOVERACK, at _Infinite Zeal, then Jacob Daniel of the Biblical Anarchy podcast. You can follow him at Biblical Anarchy. Then the homie Tim Tuttle at Jolyon Klebold. Then Will Bell is delicious blueberry rabbit I want. Then big fan of the show, at Real Josh Elliott, and then Torrin May. Appreciate you guys supporting me, doing what I do. You guys make it happen. You make the magic happen. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Thanks for the stream, Jose from Emily. Thanks for showing up, guys. Thanks for running the stream. And thanks, homie. Stay retired. You guys stay retired, too. Deuces.